Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, we're going to return to open session. Previously, we had gone into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining and a personnel issue because the discussion of those issues in open session would have had a detrimental effect in the negotiating position of the town. Before we get into the approval of the minutes and any public comment, I'd like to read to the public a resolution that was passed unanimously in the Senate of the United States. And that resolution was designating the week of September 23rd through September 29th, 2018 as the Gold Star Families Remembrance Week. And I'm just going to read you what the resolution states. Whereas the last Sunday in September is designated Gold Star Mother's Day under Section 11 of Title 36 United States Code and was first designated as Gold Star Mother's Day under the joint resolution entitled Joint Resolution designated last Sunday in September as Gold Star Mother's Day and for other purposes approved June 23rd, 1936. Whereas there is no date dedicated to families affected by the loss of a loved one who died in service to the United States, and whereas a gold star symbolizes a family member who died in the line of duty while serving in the armed forces, and whereas members and veterans of the armed forces through their service bear the burden of protecting the freedom of the people of the United States, and whereas the selfless example of service of the members and veterans of the armed forces, as well as the sacrifices made by the families of those individuals, inspires all individuals in the United States to sacrifice and work diligently for the good of the United States. And whereas sacrifices of the families of the fallen members of the armed forces and the families of veterans of the armed forces should never be forgotten, now therefore be it resolved that the Senate designates the week of September 23rd through September 29th, 2018 as Gold Star Families Remembrance Week and honors and recognizes the sacrifices made by the families of members of the armed forces who have made the ultimate sacrifice in order to defend freedom and protect the United States, and by the families of veterans of the armed forces, and encourages the people of the United States to observe Gold Star Families Remembrance Week by performing acts of service and goodwill in their communities and celebrating families in which loved ones have made the ultimate sacrifice so that others could continue to enjoy life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I find it interesting that this was a resolution that was passed unanimously by the Senate, and it was sponsored by Senator Hyde Smith, Senator Wicker, Cantwell, Van Hollen, Warren, and Murkowski in this time where, unfortunately, there are things that are unsettling on the national stage. I'm going to depart just a little bit to speak on this. You know, we lost a young member of our community, Christopher Orlando, a few years ago. It was terrible loss, and the community responded so well to support the Orlando family in its time of grief. We recently attended a ceremony down at the harbor to recognize people that have been lost, and it was a pleasure that the Orlando family joined us there. I think that this is a very timely resolution that the Senate has passed, and I just urge all of us to reflect upon it, that the freedom that this country enjoys is paid for by those who would like to put a uniform on to serve it. So with that, we'll continue on to the meeting. And the first item would be approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of September 18th, 2018.
I move, oh, go ahead. I move that we approve the minutes of September 18, 2018 as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Move to approve the minutes of September 11th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Public comment. Hearing none, we'll get right to the items on the agenda. And do we have some bell ringers here? Yes. All right. That is the first item on the agenda. Those that would like to come up and speak, you are invited to do so. Hey, Andrea.
Hello.
So we have,
I'm just the wingman tonight.
Okay.
Martha. Yes, have a seat.
one of my favorite group of people in town.
Martha and I are here to request permission to submit a full application for funding to the Community Preservation Committee. They submitted an application for $121,650. And so, pre-application. So now we'd like to submit the full application with the permission of the selectmen. Martha can answer any questions that you have about the project.
This is a continuation of the bell restoration?
It is.
How many bells this year?
So we had 2 funded through the CPC last year. Greenbush funded an additional 2, and this would fund the remaining 6 with the corresponding rope work, so it would complete the project.
With the corresponding, I'm sorry, rope?
Rope
The
work.
rope
Rope
work,
work.
yeah.
How long will the bells be out of commission?
Really, the installation, the majority of the work happens at the foundry, so they are able to install it within a few days, typically, with the 4 bells, so I assume it won't be that much more than that with the 6.
Where's the foundry?
In Virginia, it's the Sunderland Foundry.
How long will it take to take them down, take them to Virginia, and then bring them back and install them? Any idea?
They're not doing anything with the bells themselves. This is the sort of the machinery or the apparatus of the bells. So the headstocks, the wheels, the stays, the sliders, everything that helps them swing. They come and they do really precise measurements. So they were here for 8 hours measuring the 4 bells that were there. They go back and they cast the parts to duplicate it, and then they come and they switch them out.
Will the bells that are rehabilitated be able to be rung during that time, or?
It would probably be out of commission for a week or so,
Okay.
but after that, they'll be able to be run.
Questions from my colleague?
Yeah, Martha, are we able to break this down any further? So if CPC runs into some funding issues, is it possible to do 2 or 3 bells and do another 2 or 3 bells, or do you really need all 6 of these done at this point?
It's possible to break those down the way that we did, but our strong recommendation is to complete the project because you realize savings by doing them all at once, and because we have people on the bell tower committee with specialized knowledge on how to ring bells and really the mechanics of it who are approaching retirement, and we really want to do it while we have that internal expertise. So we're hoping that this year we could finish the work.
So I would just add that part of the reason that, just for the benefit of the audience, the reason that this project is coming before the selectmen is this is on town-owned land. So part of the CPC process is that if a project is occurring on town land, it gives the selectmen a chance to sort of, approve it early on in the process, because the vetting of these CPC projects takes an incredible amount of time, not only time from the project proponents, but also from CPC, from the committee itself, and from staff. I would just say, I think one of the really neat things about Hingham are that there are these pockets of people that, in a very quiet way, make really significant contributions to the town. And, you take the ringing of the bells for granted, and, you sort of don't think about it until people come into a hearing room and say, this is what we do, we're volunteers. And it was obvious last year and obvious this year that there's a collegiality and a friendship among a lot of you, and that you're passionate about what you do. And maybe you wouldn't have gotten to know each other if you didn't have this shared interest. And I just think those examples are so much part of what makes Hingham pretty special and pretty unique. And just to sort of build on my colleague's comments from earlier, you know, in a time where there's just kind of a lot of divisiveness and things out there, these types of things are really restorative, and they energize me in the role I do. This is a good vote for Hingham, and we're just very grateful to what you do to help make this community special. So I would enthusiastically support this.
So if we vote this as is, CPC can still decide to fund as much as they can fund, or some portion of this, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
I've listened to those bells ring since I was a little boy, and I have to say I truly enjoy the sound they make. So I'd be fully supportive of your efforts. I thank you all for the up and down with the ropes, and it's really cool. And I join Mary in enthusiastically endorsing what's going on here, so
Should I take a motion?
please.
I'll make a motion to allow the Memorial Bell Tower Committee to submit an application for community preservation funding for the restoration of the remaining 6 bells of the Hingham Memorial Bell Tower.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much.
Thanks for
Thank you
coming
very
in.
much.
Thank you for coming in.
Okay, proceeding apace. There are no appointments tonight. We do have some votes on the perennial.
Do you want to do the, should we do the Teamsters votes?
Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to keep the Teamsters waiting. Sorry about that. Okay. We're being asked to sign a memorandum of agreement with Local 25 of the Teamsters effective July 1, 2016 through 2017, and 2017 through June of 2020. Present in the audience is the representative for the Teamsters, as well as our own. Jack Manning serves the town on the Personnel Board. Gentlemen, would you like to join us at the table and just take us through your accomplishment here? Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening.
Well, thanks for inviting us in, Mr. Chairman, Selectmen. Jack Manning here for the Personnel Board, Andy Walsh for the Teamsters, who sits on the other side of the table from me when we do the negotiations for the DPW. This is our second time to have met across the table from one another. We did the supervisors a couple of years ago, and now we're doing the rank and file, if you will, for the DPW. Conversations have been going on for about 1.5 years to 2 years. Some of it was interrupted with a health issue on my part, so it slowed the interview and the negotiation process down a little bit, but we were able to come to terms after some tough negotiating, and Andy does a terrific job representing the point of view of the DPW rank and file. Does a terrific job at it, actually, and came to the table with a lot of asks from the town. We listened very patiently and tried to do what we could, and at the same time wanted to do the right thing for the town. So it was a negotiation that had some ups and downs, but I think in the end we brokered an equitable deal for both parties, both the DPW and the town. Some of the things that we came to grips with were the gentlemen and ladies who were working for the DPW were working without a contract since 2016. That's when the last contract ended. So it was important for us, and I And I made a point of asking Andy, whatever we do at the table today, let's see if we can do it for 4 years. Let's get a continuance of the 16 contract, and then let's move forward to get a 3-year contract that would run from 17 to 2020. And Andy was agreeable to that. We negotiated with that thought in mind, and we moved forward. We got the continuation of the previous contract for the year 17, fiscal year 17, with a 2% increase. And then we moved towards the bigger issue of, okay, what do we do for the 3 years starting 17 to 20? We made some efforts to be in conformity, I should say, with other contracts on issues like bereavement, personal days. That was important to us to make sure that we were in sync with some of the other contracts that we had agreed to as a town. And we made great efforts to make sure that we tried to stay as close as we could with the going forward with a contract that might look like a 2, 2, and 2 kind of a thing. So we worked very hard with that aim in mind. And I think in the end, we came up with an agreement that we were all proud of. We met in the middle on a number of different issues, but I think we ended up coming up with something that was both equitable for the great men who work for us in the town, men and women who work for us in the town, and something that we thought was fair from the town's perspective as well.
Excellent. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments?
I just thank you for the great work that you've both done.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, the work of the Personnel Committee is critical, I think, to, that balance of valuing our personnel, which we do, and in particular in this case, valuing the work of the rank and file at the DPW with, what the town can afford and how the town balances its priorities across the town. So, Jack, you and your group have a collective influence over how the town represents itself at that table. And, I think it's important to all of us that our employees feel valued, and, to the extent we can, meeting those employee needs in a fair and equitable way. And, I do appreciate you working toward this 4-year contract, because I think it's got to be unsettling for everybody not to have something signed up. So I appreciate both of your good work, and it's nice to see you looking well, and it's nice to see you two sitting on the same side of the table.
Yeah,
So
no,
thank you.
it was certainly a challenging, issue for us to deal with. David Bassler did an enormous amount of work to help us put this contract together, an enormous amount of work. Many of the numbers that we have to sit and look at and try to digest. Actually, Tom did an enormous amount of work. Every time I sat at the table, Tom was at my side, as was David Pace, who sits on the Personnel Board with me. It was a collective effort for sure. But I would tell you this. When we sat at the table, we all felt as if everyone was in this conversation to get to an equitable arrangement for all sides, and I think we got that.
Great.
And thank you for your kind words.
I'd like to echo the sentiments expressed by my colleagues as well. I'm delighted that there was a meeting of the minds that was reached. I'm sure it was challenging and stimulating and all of the above. At this point in time, I'd entertain a motion to sign the memorandum of agreement with Teamsters Local 25, effective July 1, 2016 through June 30th, 2017.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Entertain a motion to sign the memorandum of agreement with Teamsters Local 25, effective July 1, 2017 through June 30th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for being
The
here.
hard work.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Tom.
All right. Okay, so we've got a change of senior vice president with respect to Legal Seafoods. So what do we have here, Thomas?
We have a
Michelle.
request of Legal Seafoods to change an officer.
Paperwork all in order?
It is.
This is up in Derby Shops, Legal Seafoods?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Questions from my colleagues?
Chief, you're all set, paperwork's in order, and
I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the application of Legal Seafoods for the change of Senior Vice President and Chief Financial Officer from Mark B. Sinat to Courtney L. Cochran, as outlined in the letter from the Massachusetts Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission dated September 10th, 2018.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We have the one-day wine and malt beverages license. Who would like to do the first one?
Is that the Mad Love? I'll do that one.
Okay. Bring it on.
I move that we approve the issuance of a special one-day wine and malt beverages license to J. Brian Houlihan on behalf of Galley Kitchen and Bar for the Mad Love Music Festival to be held at the South Shore Conservatory on Sunday, October 7, 2018, from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Second.
Glad to see that this is submitted timely.
Yeah, that's
All those in
great
favor?
news. Aye.
Aye. Okay, last one.
I'll make a motion to approve the issuance of a special one-day all-alcoholic beverages license to Jonathan Dunn on behalf of Lavishly Done Catering for the Empower Her soiree to be held at the launch at Hingham Shipyard on Thursday, October 11th, 2018, from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Selectmen and Town Administrator, Assistant Town Administrator reports. Michelle.
Nothing from me, thank you.
Thomas.
I do have a matter just to update the board on, and I'm going to read the statement just so I don't leave something out. I would like to update the board on our progress in obtaining additional cost estimates for outsourcing daily operations and maintenance costs for the water company. As background, in late 2002, the Water Company Acquisition Study Committee requested and obtained a cost estimate from an experienced water system operator. This estimate was subsequently updated twice, once in October 2015 and again in November of 17. They are all available on the town website. In June, the town decided to solicit additional estimates. We considered different methods for doing that, including obtaining additional non-binding estimates, requesting or issuing a request for qualifications, or issuing a request for proposals. There were pros and cons to each approach. The town ultimately decided to issue a request for proposals. While we understood that it would be difficult for firms to provide a binding cost estimate without having access to the water company facilities and personnel, as well as records, we felt that it would provide the town with the greatest amount of certainty, should we have received any. Several firms contacted the town to obtain copies of the RFP. As we knew what might happen, the town did not receive any responses to the RFP. We have followed up with several of the firms and asked if they were willing to provide non-binding cost estimates. 2 firms have agreed and provided the town with such non-binding cost estimates. Also, as a related point of information, the estimated cost of outsourcing the daily operations and maintenance in our current financial model that we presented is higher than both of the non-binding estimates received to date, just more conservative approach. We will post the 2 non-binding cost estimates on our website for the public to review, as well as a copy of the statement. Thank you. You're welcome.
Anything else?
That's all I have. Thank you.
Karen?
Yeah, I just, it's hard not to be caught up in the news with, I think, weather and other tragedies and challenges taking place here in the Northeast in particular. And, behind the scenes, I guess I just want you all to know that your DPW, your fire, and your police forces are all helping all of these other communities when these emergencies arise, whether it be the Merrimack Valley as the domino effect of mutual aid sort of spills down in the direction of the South Shore, hurricane relief, where folks have traveled down south to lend a hand to those communities who have been devastated. And, again, my heart goes out to the folks in Marshfield who dealt with a tragedy there last night with their police officers on the line. So, I think we, as Paul sort of started off, we sort of sometimes merrily go along our way, which is, means really, I think, that police, fire, and DPW are doing their jobs. But I think every once in a while it's nice to call out the fact that that they're out there, and without them we don't enjoy the lifestyle that we have come to enjoy. So thank you.
Yeah, couple of things. A couple weeks ago, I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago, Karen and I attended the Council on Aging Volunteer Appreciation Luncheon. And
That was awesome.
it is a wonderful event, and we congratulate Dick Pont on being named Volunteer of the Year. But I think what's notable is that when you add up the collective number of volunteer hours, I think Barbara Farnsworth mentioned, it's the equivalent of 5 full-time people. And, you know, the Senior Center just runs so many wonderful programs, and many of those programs come to be through the generosity of volunteers, whether it's volunteers who are putting on a seminar or driving a van to transport people, or in various other ways. And it was just, as always, a pleasure to be there. Last Tuesday, I actually went into the advisory committee and presented the kind of long-term capital plan. So I think my fall tour is coming to a close. And I
Want a one-day
appreciated.
liquor license to celebrate that?
Need something
I,
stronger.
I appreciated the advisory committee's attentiveness, the thoughtfulness of questions, and my hope is that that helps set the table for the year that's ahead. I would also just remind people that the Historical Society is sponsoring a house tour this Sunday. I believe tickets are still available. They've been putting up photographs of some beautiful places. You're never sure where the houses are until that day, but it is always a wonderful event. It goes to help the Historical Society do the work that they're doing, and we're also very appreciative to Hingham residents who are caring for many of the historic homes and who are generous enough to open them up for us all to enjoy. So still time to take advantage of that. And one last thing, there's been a lot of press lately, but the superintendent's search is continuing along, and over the next few weeks, there will be a series of focus groups and public forums where any citizens can provide input. There is also an online survey. I would direct people to the school committee webpage. There's plenty of information, but the school committee is really going out of its way to provide everybody in the community with the opportunity to participate in this process. So we hope that people who are interested will take advantage of that opportunity in one way or the other.
I'd just like to follow up with what Karen said just a moment ago in terms of the work that our different departments are doing. And I commend them for being proactive, with respect to different issues. And, I'm not going to start ticking off what they all are. But just to give you an example, out west, there was a complaint that the data services were throttling back the data that the public safety units were able to access, which compromised their ability to fight the fires out in California. So, I read the paper, I say, hey, could that happen to us? And, I sent something down to Steve Becker, who's our IT guy, along with the police and fire, and they're right on it. Our departments are proactive in serving you, and they want to do a good job. That has real value, and that's something that you don't see or ever know, but I'm just very pleased to be part of that team, because it isn't like they are grudgingly accepting, suggestions. They're open and welcome it. So I thank you for that. Tomorrow night, long anticipated and awaited, the 3A task force is going to meet. And we're going to have a presentation by the DOT and VHB Engineer, which is the engineering firm that DOT has retained, to take us through an explanation of the data that was derived from the diet program, from the Rotary at Summer Street down to Muzzy's Corner. We're going to have a follow-on meeting in the town hall the week after, I believe, and we'll do a similar presentation to the residents there. I haven't got a sneak preview of that, so I'll be as interested as anybody in the room as to what that says. I'm not sure if it's going to be cableized, so if you have any interest at all, you might want to come. Going on, the Journal indicated or announced that it's going to be closing down the Hingham office, and I find that pretty sad. As a guy who knew Frank McLean when he was the editor of the Journal, its presence has become something perhaps I took for granted. I've enjoyed the excellent reporting that's gone on by Carol Meyer, in large part, but I've also sensed her presence here in town. And to those of you who want to see the paper remain vibrant, perhaps it would be beneficial for you to express your views to the publisher. Perhaps they should, revisit their decision to absent themselves physically from the town of Hingham. I think this leaves a void. I think that void can be filled by forces that may not have the same altruistic drive and motivation that I believe the Journal has. So this is a time to speak. If you're going to, I intend to do it myself. And finally, just a reflection on the Gold Star. Well, I think I'll leave that. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Good night.
Good night.